Will this video get demonetized? Probably. Did you guys know I love Disneyland? I thought you might have, but one thing you might not have known is that one of, if not the thing I love the most about Disney parks is the music. It's constant immersion in a way that no other theme park on earth can really do right. There's music while you're walking around different areas, while you're eating food, while you're standing in lines, and most importantly, while you're on rides. The music at Disneyland is incredible, so today I wanted to bring to you my top 5 favorite ride soundtracks in Disneyland. Starting with my least most favorite Disneyland ride soundtrack, coming in at number 5 is Pirates of the Caribbean. Now obviously this is a very, very classic song. The one I'm playing in the background right now probably is the one that probably immediately hopped to your mind with the yo-ho, yo-ho, Pirate's Life for me. I can't say I even know half the words, but that's okay because the song is great. It's an earworm, it just gets stuck in your head and it just adds to this weirdly happy atmosphere while you're going through the burning towns. Like obviously these pirates are super drunk, so there's that. But the song is great. And beyond just the song, you know, the main song through that big portion of the ride in the village, I'm talking about the whole ride's soundtrack. You know, you've got the creepy sound in the caves while you're down there. And my personal favorite, this might actually be my favorite Disneyland song, but it's just in one part of the ride, is the entrance to the queue near the boarding area when you get in that building. The song there is just a version of the main theme, but with some bassoon and just this cool big, I think it's a baritone flute, I'm pretty sure, but it sounds awesome. I'm definitely playing it now, so I'm just gonna shut up and let you listen to that for a second. Yeah, there's like a 10-hour loop of that song on YouTube that I'll just pull up in the background sometimes when I'm doing stuff. Love that track. Pirates of the Caribbean has a great soundtrack, bringing it in at number 5. Number 4 is something totally different than Pirates of the Caribbean in 100 different ways, but we're going over to Tomorrowland to hop on board Space Mountain. Now this ride just has this epic rockin' soundtrack that somehow makes you feel like you should be in space because it has that sci-fi vibe to it, but it's just rocking out like you're on a roller coaster. It's an incredible song, and my favorite part about it, beyond just the song itself, is how the song synchronizes with the track and with the ride. I think that's the coolest thing that can be done to a roller coaster, which is why I love Disneyland's Space Mountain so much. Just the added experience, the added thrill of this rockin' soundtrack as you're speeding along through the dark. Space Mountain has a killer song. The main song is really good. There's not so much memorable music outside of that in the queue or anything, but there's still some good music throughout the rest of the ride experience. But coming in at number 4, that killer Space Mountain. You know the one. If you've been on it, of course you know the song. And if you haven't been on it, you've been listening to the song for like a minute now, so I hope you like it. Number 3 is going to take us back over to New Orleans Square. Me saying that alone, you probably already guessed what it is. It is the Haunted Mansion. Kind of in the same vein of Pirates of the Caribbean, I really pair those two rides not only because they're so close in the park, but in my mind they're just such similar experiences, just original Walt Disney ideas, and obviously they have just such catchy soundtracks. The Haunted Mansion, obviously the main song being Grim Grinning Ghosts, is just another earwig, just another song. Again, I know like maybe 20% of the words to, but I pretend to sing along, and it's just such a good, fun song. Specifically the graveyard scene when all the ghouls and ghosts are singing along. You got the singing busts obviously doing their 5, what do you call a group of 5 people singing? Good is what I call them. Yeah, I love that song. It's super catchy. And then again, there's so much more to the music on the Haunted Mansion than just the graveyard scene. I love just that eerie theremin sounding creepy music that plays from the start. You know, from the moment you first walk in the mansion, there's just this eerie sound. And of course the narrator comes in and it just pairs well, and it's just such a nice auditory experience. I actually have a soundtrack of a bunch of different music from Disneyland, and one of my favorite things to listen to is just the entirety of the Haunted Mansion soundtrack. You can just hear the whole thing with the narration through the different rooms. Each room of the ride has essentially a different variation of the same song, similarly to Pirates of the Caribbean, but I think it's even more cohesive on the Haunted Mansion, which is why Haunted Mansion is coming in as my number 3 favorite Disneyland ride song. All right, here we are at the top 2, where things might get a little more controversial. I feel like obviously these are outstanding soundtracks, but they might not be everyone's top 2. That being said though, my top 2 favorite ride soundtrack is for Indiana Jones Temple of the Forbidden Eye. I know you're probably like, wow, Bram, you actually didn't put Indiana Jones at the top of your list for once. I just got it as close as possible. I love this, well, you know I love this ride, okay? Everyone knows I love Indiana Jones, and if you don't, I do. It's just my favorite thing on the planet. Okay, this ride is so cool, but the vibe of the ride is so, I'm gonna say it again, cohesive. So I just want to start right at the start of the queue for this ride. It's playing those 1930s through 40s-ish. I don't actually know the exact year the ride takes place in, but it's very, very well done with the swing music they're playing, kind of like a radio broadcast out there. It's not like you're discovering the temple for the first time on your own, but it's a temple that has been discovered and is now a tourist attraction, which is just really well done. And the music outside the queue ties into that, where you see this expedition they've set up and the generator running and all that. The music playing outside is great. You get in going through the queue and it gets a little more eerie, a little more ambient with those tribal drums playing a little bit. And you're like, ooh, I'm in this scary temple. Wow. But then, of course, the main event, the ride itself, has an outstanding soundtrack for a couple reasons that you might not have even really processed yourself. Again, this is a ride where the soundtrack is tied to the events of the ride. You go in, you see Mara, the big grand music, you're going through the twists and turns and the music's more intense. It's very cool. But this is actually a medley of music from the Indiana Jones movies, which obviously you've heard the main theme. This song itself, though, you don't hear in the movie, but it's a composition of a bunch of different Indiana Jones soundtracks squished together, which is cool on its own, but then it ties in perfectly with what's happening on ride. So it's kind of a double whammy there. Awesome music, epic music, perfect for that adventure in that temple. Man, I love that ride. It's themed so well, but the soundtrack is coming in at number 2. Number 1. Actually, just kidding. Before we get to number 1, I'm sorry. I wanted to throw in some honorable mentions over in Disney's California Adventure. I'm just talking about Disneyland for this list, but 2 of my all-time favorite Disney ride soundtracks are coming from the neighbor park right there. One of them being Soarin'. The soundtrack changed a little bit when they changed it from Over California to just Soarin', but mostly it's the same ride throughout. The same song, throughout the queue and the ride itself. Just an awesome, epic, grand song. It's one of those songs that just puts you in a good mood. It just gives off those good vibes. Soarin' is just somehow a very relaxing, breathtaking experience. The music there, perfect. Mwah. Yes, yes, yes. And then the honorable mention that used to be my number 1 in any Disney park is California Screamin'. Now, obviously, that song isn't there anymore, but that song was like Space Mountain in the sense that it was tied with this roller coaster, but for Screamin' it worked so well because that roller coaster is an epic roller coaster anywhere. Any theme park you put that roller coaster in, it would be awesome, but with the added bonus of the song that ties perfectly to every twist and turn of that track is incredible. So imagine my disappointment when the Incredicoaster soundtrack is a letdown. Anyways, off track though. Screamin' being my other honorable mention. And now I'll finally shut up and get to my number 1. What is it gonna be? What's number 1 gonna be? What hasn't he already said? Number 1 Gosh, I'm going insane. I don't know why. I just get crazy towards the end of recording sessions. Number 1, Splash Mountain. Just such a good soundtrack. I love it. It is, you know, the song you're thinking of probably is Zippity Doo Dah. Obviously, such an awesome song. And it goes, again, so well with the ride. Just the atmosphere of this music being so happy, so easy to sing along to. It just like puts you in a good mood whenever you hear it. That ride is just such a joyful experience for me. And without that music, it might not be the same. The thrill of a log ride in itself is awesome. Never knowing just how wet you're gonna get, kind of like hugging in as much as you can when a splash comes over. And just laughing the whole ride, paired with this song that just gets so stuck in your head, and it's such a positive, happy song, puts me in a good mood. And then of course there's much more than just Zippity Doo Dah. There is plenty of instrumentals with this kind of cartoony, good critter country vibe that just works so well. And then there's the Laughing Place song. Such a good soundtrack. Splash Mountain coming in at number 1. I have to note, I previously didn't have an opinion on this back when I did Splash Mountain Versus, but having really listened to them both, the Splash Mountain soundtrack is so much better at Disneyland than Disney World. You see, in Disney World, Splash Mountain takes place in Frontierland, so it's got this country twang with banjo and that kind of stuff, like real instruments. Which obviously they're all real instruments, but it sounds a little more country and a little more like authentically being played live or something in Disney World, which is still good and awesome. They still have all the same lyrics and songs and tunes and all that. But in Disneyland, it's a little more cartoony, just a little more of that joy experience I was talking about. So really, I love the soundtrack in Disneyland, and it comes in at my number 1. So Splash Mountain, number 1 Disneyland ride soundtrack. Obviously, that's just my opinion, though. What is yours? I will put a poll up there, giving you my top 4 choices that you can click on, because I can only add 5 poll options, and the number 5 is going to be other. So please comment below if I didn't say your favorite soundtrack. Maybe it's Small World. I love the background music to Roger Rabbit's Cartoon Spin. Whatever your favorite soundtrack is, comment below, whether that's Disneyland, California Adventure, or if your home park is Disney World or somewhere else in the world. I want to hear the kind of tunes you're into. Just always have an ear open when you're riding a Disney ride, because it's just an awesome experience. So thank you guys so much for watching this episode of Disneylander. I still should probably plan ahead how to end videos. Did not do that today. Probably won't do it next time. But I do appreciate you guys. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Please share the channel with some friends. I'm really cultivating a community here, and I love all the comments I've been getting. I just love chatting with you guys below. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you have an awesome rest of your week. I will see you in 2 weeks' time, kind of. I'm right on the brink of getting into that weekly upload cycle. But for now, the next full Disneylander in 2 weeks. I'll see you then.